Good morning.
Good morning.
The Senate Subcommittee on Education and Health will come to order. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Really delighted to have so many members of the public here, as well as our friends. Delighted to have this new committee as we start in 2024. So welcome to the Senate Committee on Education and Health. This committee will be meeting every Thursday morning at 8 o'clock. I am Ghazala Hashmi, representing the 15th Senatorial District, which is parts of the city of Richmond and parts of Chesterfield County. I'm truly honored to be chairing this committee, and I am going to do my very best to follow the footsteps of my remarkable predecessor and President Pro Tem of the Senate, Senator Louise Lucas. I will, however, not have the same kind of charismatic and colorful presence as she does, nor the wardrobe to compete. This morning, we are going to introduce all of the members of the committee shortly, both returning members as well as our new members. But first, I'd like to define some of the committee's rules, its subcommittees, and we're also going to be inviting our Secretary of Health and Human Resources, Secretary Littell, and our Secretary of Education, Secretary Gadara, to offer a few brief remarks to the committee. But first, let me just outline a few of the rules by which this committee will be operating. The majority of the bills that we will hear in this committee will be actually going through subcommittee, as we've already established this precedence in previous terms. Occasionally, a bill will be heard in full for the first time, and the first meeting of the session today, we will also hear some bills for the first time. Public testimony for all bills, with the exception of any bills heard for the first time in full committee, will, however, be heard in subcommittee. And if a bill has been heard in the subcommittee, there will not be any additional testimony in full committee. We may, however, hear from patrons if necessary on those bills. And public testimony for each bill will be limited to 10 minutes for each side. And this applies also for all of our subcommittee meetings and for any full committee meeting at which public testimony is being heard for the first time. If a bill has received unanimous positive vote in a subcommittee, the patron will not need to appear in full committee, and patrons will be contacted if necessary. So our committee membership is, as you see, we've got some new members here as well as some returning members, and I will ask each of our committee members to briefly introduce themselves by sharing their name and the district that they represent, and we'll start to my right with Senator Pekarsky.
Good morning, everyone. Happy to be here today. I represent Senate District 36, Western Fairfax County.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Skylar Van Valkenburg, and I represent Senate District 16 in Western Henrico County.
Good morning. I'm Senator Jennifer Boysko. I represent the newly created 38th Senate District, which is in northern Fairfax County.
Good morning. I'm Senator Barbara Favola, and my new district is now entirely contained within Arlington County. So I gave up portions of Fairfax and Loudoun, but happy to be here. Thank you.
Good morning. I am L. Louise Lucas, representing the 18th Senatorial District, returning every year since 1992.
I'm Mamie Locke. I represent the 23rd Senate District, which is cities of Hampton and Newport News.
I'm David Suderline, and I represent Roanoke City, Salem, most of Roanoke County, and most of Montgomery County. And my youngest daughter's name is Elle Louise. I haven't had another child yet, so I don't have a Ghazala yet, but maybe.
Good morning. My name is Mark Peake. I represent Senate District 8, which is all of the city of Lynchburg and all of Campbell County and all of Bedford County.
Good morning. Todd Pillion, Lee, Scott, Wise, Washington, Russell, Buchanan, Dickinson, cities of Norton and Bristol, Southwest Virginia.
Good morning, Senator Chris Head, 3rd Senate District, and I represent parts of Roanoke County, all of Botetourt, all of Craig, all of Allegheny, City of Covington, all of Rockbridge, cities of Buena Vista and Lexington, about 25% of Augusta County, all of the cities of Stanton, and all of the city of Waynesboro. So,
Trying to brag.
Good morning, Tara Durant. I represent Senate District 27, so that's most of the county of Stafford, the city of Fredericksburg, and portions of Spotsylvania County. Thank you.
Let's try this again. Good morning, Christy New Craig. I represent parts of Chesapeake and Virginia Beach.
Well, thank you to all of our new and returning members for those introductions. I also want to share an overview of our subcommittee meeting times, as well as those individuals who are assigned to the subcommittee. First, we have the Subcommittee on Public Education, which will be meeting on Thursdays starting this afternoon, half an hour after the adjournment of our floor session. Chairing that subcommittee is Senator Van Valkenburg, and other members are Senators Pekarsky, Locke, Craig, and Peake. The Subcommittee on Health Profession will be meeting on Fridays at 8:30 a.m. Chairing that subcommittee is Senator Boysko, and subcommittee members Senators Pekarsky, Bagby, Head, and Pillion. The Subcommittee on Higher Education will be meeting each Monday at 9 a.m., and chairing that subcommittee is Senator Locke, with subcommittee members Aird, Van Valkenburg, Head, and Pillion. And finally, the Subcommittee on Health will be meeting every Tuesday at 4 p.m., and chairing that subcommittee is Senator Favola, with subcommittee members Senators Aird, Bagby, Durant, and Suderline. At this point, we have a couple of special guests joining us this morning. We have the Secretary of Health and Human Resources, Secretary Littell, and Secretary of Education, Secretary Gadara. Both of them do have a hard stop, I understand, at 8:25, so we want to make sure that they have 8:30? Okay, so we have a little bit more time, but we would want to make sure they have the opportunity to address the committee. So much of what we will be talking about will certainly be very directly connected to their secretariat. So, Secretary Littell, I invite you to come and address the committee first.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for having me here today, and welcome back to Richmond. Madam Chair, as you noted, you do have big and sometimes fancy and bedazzled shoes to fill, and I look forward to working very closely with you as we go forward. As the governor noted yesterday, while we collectively have accomplished a great deal, we still have many, many challenges ahead. The year ahead of us is critically important to the work of my team within Health and Human Resources as we seek to finish key initiatives that we started at the beginning of the administration and accelerate transformations underway that will deliver tremendous value and well-being to the citizens of Virginia. Given our short time here today, I'll just address a few of those. The administration began under the strain of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the work of unwinding from that era still remains. It is important for us to remember that time period and utilize the lessons, good and bad, learned. These include developing and maintaining trust and trusted voices, transparency, and the value of community-based resources. We must remember that trust is fundamental to spread the right information, to help citizens navigate complex questions, and implement effective policy. That is why my secretariat will complete an information hub that will offer an easy-to-navigate website and call line to provide guidance to government services and requirements with broad language and disability access using state-of-the-art technology. Madam Chair, you have championed language accessibility for some time, and ensuring that people with disabilities have access to information in a way that is useful to them has been a personal priority for both the governor and me. While there are separate initiatives underway regarding language and disability access, our information hub will make both of those a priorities as we go forward. As most of you know, we were required by the federal government to review the eligibility of every individual on Medicaid. These are the first eligibility redeterminations in over 3 years. Our goal was to do this efficiently, but more importantly, to make sure that no family, no individual fell through the cracks. We've worked with the Virginia Healthcare Foundation and many local organizations to provide information to the 2.2 million people on Medicaid. We also worked very closely with the Virginia State Healthcare Exchange, which went live in October. Thus far, we have redetermined 1.5 million Virginians and have 700,000 to go. We are not only on track, but we have been used as a positive example by CMS. I'd like to acknowledge the leadership team at DMAS and DSS, as well as the local social service departments that have made this process run as smoothly as it has. Speaking of Medicaid, we are looking to bring our Medicaid program to a best-in-class model through the reprocurement of the managed care contracts. These new contracts will better focus health plan resources on community health, maternal care, and mental and substance use, and provide better financial protections for the Commonwealth. Some of our collective work requires sustained efforts over several years to create the kind of transformative change that we seek. For Governor Youngkin and so many of you, a key to a healthy Virginia is ensuring that our behavioral health system meets every person's need at the right time. We just celebrate the 1-year anniversary of our Right Help Right Now initiative. We started this journey aspiring to ensure that Virginians in crisis have someone to call, someone to respond, and somewhere to go. Our focus in year 1 was to begin the build-out of Virginia's crisis infrastructure and set up implementation plans for the initiative's 6 pillars. More than 125 state employees from several secretariats and agencies participated. I did bring my own soundtrack, so it's to lure you to sleep. A foundation of the initiative is leaning into the crisis hotline 988. In the month of November alone, we received over 8,300 calls on the 988 helpline, up from less than 6,000 a year ago. We are tops in the nation in answering those calls quickly. Across the Commonwealth, we are answering over 90% of those calls in under 25 seconds. Many of the reasons that people call are being solved on that first phone call. Mobile crisis teams are the second element of that infrastructure. This time last year, the Commonwealth only had 36 publicly funded mobile crisis teams. We estimated that a minimum of 70 was required to ensure that a team was no more than an hour from every Virginian. Today, we are at 97 mobile crisis units that are funded, and our revised goal is 140 fully staffed teams. This time last year, we had hoped to fund 2 new emergency room alternative crisis receiving centers. We just announced funding for 8 new projects across the Commonwealth by partnering with localities, and there's more to come in the next couple of months. We're accelerating our efforts because our citizens continue to be in crisis. In his legislative and budget proposals, the governor identified components of a youth mental health strategy, including providing technical support and offering funding for school-based mental health services, which CMS recently authorized for Virginia. Putting a stop to predatory and addictive practices that social media companies are unleashing on our children, and attacking the scourge of fentanyl poisoning head-on. A major component of Right Help Right Now is ensuring that parents and families are informed of their children's health concerns and able to access their child when in a mental health crisis. Sadly, Ivo Otieno's family was not allowed to be with him to help de-escalate his own mental health crisis. That is why the governor supports legislation to ensure that family members and legal guardians can access someone under evaluation in a mental health crisis so long as there's no safety or medical risk. Ensuring the involvement of parents whenever appropriate is critical not only in addressing crisis and long-standing issues, but also in building resiliency to tackle what's ahead in their child's life. None of our behavioral health transformation would be possible if we do not address the healthcare workforces that we face. Many of you have addressed bills to address workforce. My team is available to share data and best practices as we look at bills and budget provisions that support healthcare workforce. We need to make it easier for professionals in other states to come to work here immediately. We need to create financial supports and clinical training opportunities for young health professionals trying to obtain licenses to practice. Finally, we need to rethink our approach to a workforce to ensure that we have professionals at different skill levels that can support care as a team to ensure the most appropriate approach. Lastly, you recall that the Safe and Sound Task Force was created to address the unacceptable situation of foster children sleeping in hotels and local DSS offices. It has accomplished a lot together with you and other stakeholders, including an immediate 76% reduction in the number of kids sleeping in local social services offices. We need more sustainable ways to ensure that children have places to go, that we find more families willing to foster a child, that we are replacing them with safe families, and that wherever possible, we place them with relatives who are willing and able to care for them, and that those kinship caregivers get access to supports to help them on their journey. These are a few of the items that my office and the 12 agencies that comprise HHR are working on. We look forward to discussing them in greater detail, as well as to respond to your own bills that you and your colleagues have introduced. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me or my team to discuss the bills or amendments. We're here to support you, and I just want to recognize or identify for you all my 3 deputies that are available, James Williams, Leah Mills, and Lynette Walker, who is the CFO of HHR. They'll be working with you and testifying as we go forward. So thank you again for having me. I look forward to working closely with you.
Thank you very much, Secretary Littell. And if you have just a few minutes, I wanted to see if there are any of our committee members who might have 1 or 2 questions to ask briefly. Yes, Senator Craig.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Secretary Littell,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a former law enforcement officer, so this is very important to me. What is help right now doing to reduce the burden on temporary detentions on our law enforcement?
The answer is a lot and not as much as we need right now. So I think I'd start with alternative transportation. I think many of you know that we had an alternative transportation provider that really did not meet the needs that we had right now, and it was being utilized very rarely. We renegotiated that contract and actually have a pilot right now to ensure that we can take more difficult patients, which only law enforcement had previously been able to do. And so that's an area that we continue to work on. And, we have a bill that would address that and ensure that those individuals were transported by alternative transportation within a reasonable time frame. So that's one of the most important things that I think we can do. There are a number of other provisions in Right Help right now that are really designed to reduce the burden on law enforcement. But the reality is, at the end of the day, because of the risk to individuals in the community, law enforcement will always have a role, as you know. And so I think our job is to make sure that we're making them available in places that are right. A lot of the work that's going on with mobile crisis units and crisis receiving centers really does a significant, it's a significant part of reducing that. When a law enforcement person can take an individual in crisis to a crisis receiving center and transfer custody, that really gets the law enforcement out, ensures that the person is safe, and we can address them in a way that's outside of an emergency room and having them sit there for 48 hours.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next on the list is Senator Durant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to follow up a question for Secretary Littell on the alternate transport. It's my understanding that that contract has been underutilized, and I wondered if you could expand a little bit on what are some of the underlying reasons. Is there a reluctance by the private company to assume that risk, or is there another reason that you can kind of touch upon?
Thank you. There are multiple reasons, Senator. They include, one, just the lack of staff that they had available during the contract. So a number of the individuals that were doing the alternative transportation were too far away. And so that created an issue. Secondly, the contract that we negotiate did not allow for any kind of restraint. And so a number of individuals are at risk to themselves. And so if you can't restrain them, that means only law enforcement can do that. So law enforcement can do that. So we worked very closely to figure out what are the appropriate ways that individuals can be restrained in that situation. And we did that. And then lastly, and there are probably many other reasons, but lastly, just working very closely with magistrates and local officials to ensure that they understand that that alternative transportation should be the first step that they go to. A lot of people are unaware that that is an option, and so really just making people aware of that. So I think we'll see that really pick up this year and certainly next year as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And just briefly, because we are still going to hear from Secretary Gadara, and they do have a hard stop. So Senator Aird, you had a question?
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, Secretary
Good morning.
Littell. I was hoping you could elaborate on the increase that you referenced and seeing in, 988?
Yep.
I was hoping that you can tell whether or not the use of the number is widespread at this point. I know it's still being implemented and marketed, as well as if you're seeing any duplication in those calls. Volume is good, but I'm trying to assess the success of the referrals when someone calls in.
Great question, Senator. And I think that right now we're not far enough along to really do a really thorough assessment. What I do know is in the fall, the state and then the feds did a marketing campaign for 988. And so a lot more people are aware of it. I think we print it in really everything we do. A lot of organizations are utilizing that and communicating it to people who are interested in their members. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. There are still, I believe, opportunities, particularly in language and other access to make sure that we communicate that. I think that one of the things is really looking at the types of people that are calling, as you say. Are they repeat individuals? What parts of Virginia are they calling from? And just figure out, are our education efforts sufficient? And I think we have a lot more to do still on that. So I think we'll continue to update you all on that.
Thank you, Secretary Littell, for joining us this morning. We appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. And now I invite Secretary Gadara to address the committee. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. It's such a delight to be back in front of you, and especially in your beautiful new building, so it's wonderful to be here. I also would like to start by introducing my team. I know we're going to have a short period of time today, and I just want to reinforce the fact that we are available at any time to meet individually with you and to come back, and if there's anything we can do. But my team, I'll ask them to stand, are here, and we will make sure you have the information for everyone on the Secretary of Education so that you all can get in touch with us. We look forward to working in partnership with you all. And I have a short presentation. I will keep it brief so we have time for questions as well. I want to start with our goals, and I know that they're shared goals in the conversations that we've had together. But every day in our Secretary, we wake up thinking about these four things. One is we all know that our children are at risk. They are hurting emotionally, developmentally, and academically. And so everything that we do, and in partnership with you all, is focused on the learning loss and on chronic absenteeism and making sure that our children are back on track for success. We also are focusing on really how do we broaden this exposure and this experiences that are connecting school and work so that our children at all ages and our learners in higher education as well are able to connect what they're learning with what potential earning looks like, and making sure that we have a way of connecting these and making these broader and hopefully providing more opportunities to build expertise before our students are out in the world of work. And what's really important, as you know, in this administration is also making sure that we have greater transparency and that we're holding ourselves accountable as adults to make sure that every single learner in the Commonwealth is prepared for success in life. And always, 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 we are focusing on how do we prioritize innovation and making sure that the one-size-fits-all system isn't what we're doing, that we're seeing such creativity and such wonderful ideas at every level in education that are meeting students where they are and getting them where they need to be. And so together with you, we're looking forward to how do we continue to make sure that we are building flexibility in systems and also making sure that we are not only having high expectations for every child, but we're also making sure that we are creatively meeting them there and getting them where they need to go. So a couple quick highlights I'm going to do, and I'm not going to read these slides to you, and you all have them, I think, on your fancy new iPads that you can look at, and we'll get you hard copies if you prefer that as well. A lot of words on this slide. I'm not going to go through them all, but just to give you a quick sense of where we're coming into this year, and then a couple slides on where we want to go. One is we're really excited about the investment that the governor talked about, and he mentioned again yesterday evening, around building blocks in early childhood. We all know how incredibly vital it is to have a strong early childhood education and development system. And with building blocks, we're going to make sure that Virginia continues to have the nation's greatest public-private choice system that's based on quality. And there were huge progress made last year in terms of every single one of our classrooms in early childhood that receives public funds now as part of our quality system. And so we're able to have information that shows us and ensures that our children are in safe and in vibrant and environments where they are learning. Chronic absenteeism, again, not going to read this to you, but we're already seeing a difference. We have, since we announced the Chronic Absentee Task Force early in the year, our rates of chronic absenteeism across the Commonwealth have gone down from 19.5 to 15.5%. And this task force has identified best practices not just from across the Commonwealth, but also across the nation that we're going to continue to get out into our school divisions and work in partnership to make sure that we're doing everything possible to make sure every student is in school. Innovation, just want to give you a just-in-time update. The Standing Committee of the State Board of Education met yesterday and moved forward another application to go in front of the Board of Education. We are on track to having 20 lab school applications approved, we hope, by the end of June. There are 3 at this point, and I'm happy to go into more detail about any of that. But what we're seeing in terms of these applications from our school divisions, from our higher education institutions, from the community coming together is just exciting. People are building these schools that are truly meeting where kids are. And my favorite part is the innovation and the partnership, especially around thinking about how do we develop the next teaching force. And already half of the applications that have come through are focusing on teacher development and making sure that we're expediting teacher development in innovative ways. So it's exciting. And then again, I don't want to spend too much time on all this, but I do want to reinforce this whole raising expectations. You know, this is something that I've been in front of you several times in the last couple of years talking about how important it is for us to make sure that we are raising expectations for all of our children, because we know that the world of work has increasing skill level demands, and we want to make sure that Virginia students are prepared for life. So I'm really proud of the work the State Board has done to produce what I think are model standards in both history and civics and math, and to give you a preview that we will be now, the State Board will be taking on English language learners this spring, English and language arts, sorry, not enough coffee this morning, English and language arts, computer science, and then early next year, science. So we have an opportunity to really review all of our critical key content areas and have conversations about that. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about 2 things that you all made possible, and I want to give you a report on where we are on this. First of all, the Virginia Literacy Act, probably one of the most important pieces of legislation I think that we'll see in this decade, is so important. And again, the implementation and the progress on this is going so well. Over the last year, over 1,500 reading specialists were trained, thanks to the investments that you all have made in the leadership of signing this law into being. And we also have an agreed upon list of what it looks like and what materials can be used to teach the reading that are aligned with the science of reading, so that we are on track to making sure that we are resetting how we teach reading in the Commonwealth to make sure that every child can read on grade level. And you all know, we all know, that that is absolutely critical to making sure we're preparing every single child for success in life. I also want to express my appreciation for the investment of $418 million in the All-in Virginia plan. Every single school division has put together a plan. We are watching what they're doing and learning from it and being able to have this network networks where people can learn about what's working, where there are struggles that they can learn from each other. And as the governor and the superintendent and I have been out visiting schools around the Commonwealth, it is absolutely inspiring to see what is happening in our schools and under the leadership of our school division superintendents. And I know that you all are visiting schools as well, and hopefully seeing the same thing, of seeing when Virginia sets our mind to something and says we are going to be all in and we are going to help every single child, we're doing it. And so I look forward to being back in front of you over the next couple months, giving you updates and showing that that progress is continuing. But thank you for the partnership, and thank you for the continued conversations about how do we serve our children. I'm happy to go into all these later on, but let me do a couple in higher education as well. And I'm just going to do a couple here. One, we are spending a lot of time bringing together our institutions and the presidents. I think you all know the governor meets on a quarterly basis with the presidents of all of our public institutions. We also hosted 2 summits this year, one on mental health, because we all know the crisis underway right now, but also on free speech and inquiry. And we had every single institution, public institution of higher education, community college, and 4-year at that session, as well as we invited all the privates, and we had over half of them there as well. Again, the conversations we're trying to have at the higher education level as well is how do we make sure that Virginia continues to be one of the top non-system systems in the country, preparing Virginians to be successful and to fuel our economy. A couple of things I also want to highlight in terms of reaffirming just the bipartisan approach to education that I hope we will continue in this year ahead. The 2 top ones here, the Virginia Office of Education Economics, VOE, is an incredible program that was started in a prior administration, and I think this is one of the most exciting things going on right now when we talk about education and training. If you all have not been on the VOE website, I encourage you to do so. It is live now, and it is populated with data, and it is really exciting. We are one of the only states, I would say the first state, that has such a robust labor market information system that makes timely information about regional job demands and skill demands available to everyone in Virginia. This is a game changer in terms of how we make decisions about education, how we make decisions about workforce development, and I think it just will set Virginia apart, and it will make sure that we are investing in programs and services that will get the greatest return on investment in terms of preparing people for work, but I also think is a game changer in terms of empowering Virginians, opportunity seekers at all ages, with the information they need to make sure they're making the right decisions about their education. So thank you again for what you all are doing, supporting that and expanding that. And then lastly on here, I'll just highlight the credential attainment work. Fast Forward, another program that you all made possible before we got here, and it is one of our most successful pieces. We are seeing the demand for this program just go through the roof. You all put additional dollars into this in September, and we're asking for additional dollars in this going forward because we cannot keep up with the demand. And the results and the evaluations from this program truly talk about, I'll just give a couple of them. What we're seeing in here is that it makes a difference when, one, this is geared towards our most high in demand job needs. Second of all, we're seeing the people benefiting from this program are ones who have never touched an education or training program before. So this is really about upskilling and reskilling for populations who have not touched our higher education system before. So I think there's a lot we can learn and a lot we can do to expand. And again, I want to thank you for your investment on that. I'm going to turn, and I'm again happy to go back over any of these, although I will pause on one. Mental health and safety and security are themes you're going to see us continue to focus on. Additional dollars in the budget, which we'll talk about in a second, but also in mental health, we are continuing to expand and did this past year, and as you know, the governor announced last night, continuing to make sure that we are prioritizing safety, that mental health, and that our learning environments at all levels of education are vibrant and conducive to our children and our older students, making sure that they're in places that they can learn and feel safe. So looking ahead real fast, and you all know this, you got to hear it both in December at the budget announcement, but as well as yesterday. But this administration has made historic investments in education across the board. And I just want to give a couple highlights. This upcoming year, we will have the largest per pupil investment ever in the history of the Commonwealth. Just quick headlines on this. Almost $1 billion will be invested in early childhood over the next biennium. We're going to have $20.2 billion invested in K-12 education. This is a $4.3 billion increase over the 22-23, and it doubles the investment in K-12 education over the last decade, which is an incredible number. This is a 25% increase in K-12 funding over from 2022, and in higher education, we're proposing putting in an additional $400 million in new funding. Again, brief headlines on this. On early child care and education, in addition to just putting in additional dollars to get us up to over almost $1 billion, just a couple highlights from this. This creates a $25 million capital grant fund that allows us to get creative about repurposing properties and buildings across the Commonwealth to make sure that we can meet the needs in our child care deserts. It also maintains these next two pieces, scholarships and investments, to make sure that we have a strong early childhood educator pool and that we're making sure that we're addressing shortages, especially in the areas where we know we're struggling to get people to work in early childhood care. In the K-12, again, a total of $20.2 billion, a historic investment. A couple highlights coming out of the budget that the governor is proposing. $20 million we are putting into an effort to really connect credential attainment at the high school level, what we call Diploma Plus. And the governor's goal is to make it possible for every single high school graduate to leave not only with a high school diploma, but also with the opportunity of having earned an industry-recognized credential. And I think this is one of those opportunities to think about innovation and about connecting the worlds of education and workforce, but also how do we make sure we do a better job of doing career preparation, college preparation, and providing our young people early with the information they need to make good decisions so that financially they can make sure that they have the skills and knowledge they need, but also they have to make the financial decisions and make plans, but also they get the skills. And we look forward to working with you on this. Also, again, investments in mental health services in our schools, telehealth, but also expanding the workplace and the workforce and mental health. $40 million in the budget we're proposing for a new assessment system. I want to thank Senator Van Valkenburg for his leadership around House Bill 585, which was just central to creating this focus and a work group over the last year to look at our assessment system and making sure that we redesign it so that tests work for students, they work for teachers, they work for parents, and they work for policymakers. And so we are in the process of implementing the recommendations coming out of that report, and I look forward to working with you on that. And then also $30 million putting in for the lab schools, hoping to expand the number of schools that we can launch in the next 2 years. The demand out there is great. There are many, many planning grants that are still being built, and there's a demand to continue to open these schools. So we look forward to working with you on that as well. And then finally, in higher education, just a couple highlights on here. We are really excited about the investment the governor talked about around creating a focus on research in higher education. We have incredible institutions, and we need to do a better job of ensuring that this focus on research is collaborative, that we're getting synergies going, and that we are known as being the state that is investing in research and learning and innovation at all levels. And our institutions of higher education are a critical part of that. And then just one more thing I'll put on here, given the time, is this focus on career readiness and internships. One of the things that the business community, we have said, you all have said, is the importance, again, of this exposure to work. And so we're investing $20 million in internships. We believe strongly that at the higher education level, every student should leave their college experience not only with a degree, but also having had a meaningful paid workplace experience, again, to open the doors. And the data here is irrefutable. When students have paid work experiences, they're more likely to go into that field. They're more likely to be hired by that company. And we also know that companies find this to be a very, very valuable investment. So we're looking forward to doing that. And again, as I said earlier, the Workforce Credential Grant Program, that we're looking forward to expanding that as well, and learning from that and about how we can expand the concepts of credentials into the high school years as well. I'm going to pause there and just end with where I started of saying thank you, Madam Chair, for your leadership, and we look forward to working with all of you to ensure that Virginia is the best place not just to live, work, and raise a family, but the best place to be educated.
Thank you very much, Secretary Godera, for that presentation. And I just want to share with our committee members that we will ensure that the PowerPoint is available to everybody. We'll distribute that. But if you have some time, I would like to open it up for a few questions from our committee members. Is there anyone on the committee that would like to ask a question? I see Senator Favola, you are first in queue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Secretary Cadera, for joining us. I noticed the governor did put a sizable amount of money in to support mental health services in our schools. I will just say that the state has to be a strong partner to make this work. School systems do not know how to draw down Medicaid dollars. They are not aware of best practices in terms of how to put together a good mental health team. And some of our students actually do need continuing services, not just the one-on counseling session. So I just encourage the state to take this seriously and not just pass out the money, but to be there as a partner and to ensure that we make progress. I do know we have a robust pilot program going on. We were briefed, the Joint Commission on Healthcare was briefed, and I am applauding the efforts so far, but I'm expecting more, and I thank you for joining us.
Madam Chair, Senator, I just want to say thank you for that comment, and I want to assure you that Secretary Littell and our teams, our offices are right next to each other, and that's on purpose, is that there's a lot of collaboration, and we are talking constantly, and we couldn't agree more with you. So we look forward to working with you, and please continue to work with us and raise issues that you see that are not working.
Thank you. And Senator Locke.
Good morning, Secretary, and thank you for joining us this morning. I note that more resources are being put into the Partnership for Laboratory Schools, in addition to the funding that has already been placed there. Has a plan been developed, and I've asked this question before, regarding sustainability for these lab schools?
Madam Chair, Senator Locke. So this is an issue that we share and prioritize, the need for these schools to be sustainable. This is part of the application process, and we actually, given both of our shared priorities on this, we have asked the standing committee to go back into the grant process and the application, the proposal that people have to submit, and to reinforce that sustainable piece of this and come into the application process with evidence about and a plan for how they are going to ensure that these schools are sustainable if and when that there is no more state-specific money for lab schools. And so that is one of the pieces that we are working with and that the standing committee has done. They talked about it at their meeting on Monday, and they will continue to do that. So please know that we take this very seriously. And as you and I have talked about before, our goal is to have these schools not exist for the next 5 years, but to exist for the next 50 years, and to make sure that they are serving the Commonwealth and they're providing inspiration for innovation and lessons for all schools across the Commonwealth to benefit from.
Next in queue is Senator Head.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Secretary Cadera. It's good to see you again. Also had some lab school questions with the money that's been budgeted. I think $60 million totally over the biennium. Can you tell me how many lab schools we've got currently operational? I think you said 17 in queue, but how many do you expect to have operational by the start of the 2024 school year, and then how many by the end of 2024 that we'd have up and running?
Great. Madam Chair and Senator, so we will, there are 20 that we know. We're being very conservative in how we can, and that 20 that are in the system right now. Our timeline shows that we will have 20 of those through the State Board of Education approval process by July 1. And our hope is that most of those will be launched, that they will be launched by September, and if not September, by the January of the semester. But all of them, we hope, are on goal of being for the 24-25 season, or school year. And in addition, we are hoping that we will be able to do another 10 over the next 2 years. So we're just keeping the machine going on this. The standing committee is incredible. We have an incredible committee. And the team at the department and also the State Board of Education have just been incredible in terms of the feedback that they're providing these applications and about bringing these applicants together and learning. So the process is getting smoother and smoother. And the feedback that we're getting from the applicants is that it's working. So we're hoping we will have lots of schools up and running. And in fact, it will be a ribbon cutting at the VCU code RVA system on Wednesday. So we'll have the first thing. So watch the newspaper for that.
Thank you very much.
Next in queue is Senator Van Valkenburg.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, Secretary Gutierrez. I want to start by thanking you guys for putting that money in for assessments, because we have had poor assessments in Virginia for a long time, and part of that is resources, and so thank you for the bipartisan work on that. My question is around the funding formula, because I had a lot of angst last night watching the State of the Commonwealth, not because the governor was talking about the funding formula. That's my love language. Since I've been in the General Assembly, I've wanted to reform it. My angst is around the timeline he proposed, because we have bipartisan bills to start that process this session, which I hope everybody acts favorably upon. But we know that it's going to be a multi-year process because it's a regional issue, it's a money issue, it's getting in the weeds of the code issue. And so my angst is around, if we're trying to speed that up, actually setting the process back. And so I guess my question is kind of, what is the specific plan that the governor and you all have to try to get it done that fast? Because it strikes me as not plausible, I guess.
Madam Chair, Senator. So I hope what everyone takes from the governor's remarks in his State of the Commonwealth yesterday is a commitment to work in partnership with the General Assembly to make sure that the November 1st deadline that was put in the budget language in September and calling for that work group, that continues to move forward. And our commitment is to bring the resources of the department, of my office, to support and work with you and to work on those timelines together. So it's really an outreach of an offer of assistance and partnership, because it is such an important issue. And we look forward to working on those timelines with you.
Thank you. And our final question is Senator Peake.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and Madam Secretary. One of my good friends back in Lynchburg is an elementary school teacher, and when the kids came back this fall, she said, my goodness, a lot of our third, fourth graders are 2 years behind. Some third, fourth grade folks were not really reading, and so they're way behind. Of course, we've seen the math scores have been terrible. So I know the governor's got the all-in plan to help address the learning loss from the corona pandemic. How will we know, or when will we know, if that all-in plan is working? What are the testing scores being done? What's our time frame for getting a handle on that?
Sure. Madam Chair and Senator Peake, thank you for that question. So we'll have our first Commonwealth-wide snapshot of how well we're doing when we have the SOLs next May. But as you saw last night and experienced during the State of the Commonwealth, we're having glimpses into things working. When we had Chloe standing up and showing her increases of going from being at 2% to now 80%. And so we know that our schools are constantly doing short-term assessments and interim assessments to find out where students are. And that's one of the things that the department is also checking in with superintendents, is saying, how is it going? What are you learning? And part of this, why it's so important that these divisions have plans and the department has it, is so we can learn as we're implementing it. And so that when we start seeing places that are getting results, how do we learn from what they're doing and then help our other school divisions learn from that? Because we don't have time to wait, and we need to be making mid-course corrections. If a school division is getting extraordinary results, we want to learn from that, capture that, and help others learn from it immediately. So we know we're not requiring any kinds of assessments at the state level and adding on. We're leaving that to the prerogative and the wisdom of local school division leadership. But at the same time, we are in constant contact through the superintendent and her team are working all the time, listening to what's working, where it's going, and then how we can learn from that and help other school divisions. But I'm hoping that we have a whole lot more Chloes out there and that we're seeing those impacts, because what Chloe being there last night represents is that sometimes we get caught up in that this is a lot of numbers and data, and that behind every one of those numbers is a Chloe. And that's why this work matters so much, and that is why I'm so looking forward to working in partnership with this committee to making sure that we support the Chloes of the world. So thank you.
Secretary Gadara, thank you so much for taking your time and joining us this morning. I know we've held you past your hard stop. I apologize for that, but thank you for the insights, and we will certainly be in conversation throughout this session with you and your office. So thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you, ma'am. I look forward to working with you and the entire committee. And please, I am sincere. I'd love to come by your offices and get to know all of you better and work. I'm off to the Career and Technical Educators meeting to talk about these important issues as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you. We do have 8 bills on the docket to consider this morning, but before we do that, I did want to ensure that we also made introductions of our wonderful Division of Legislative Services attorneys who are here, as well as our clerk of committee and other staff members who are joining us every morning to assist us in this rather extensive process with so many bills. So if we could just have a brief introduction of our DLS attorneys.
Good morning, Julia Carlson with the Division of Legislative Services.
And Ryan Brimmer with DLS.
Julia Bergamini with DLS.
And Hannah Yates with DLS.
I'm Hobie Lehman with the Senate Clerk's Office.
I'm Jonathan Palmore, Senate Clerk's Office.
Madison O'Dowell with the Senate Clerk's Office.
Thank you so much. We couldn't do any of this work without this wonderful support team that we have. As I mentioned, we have 8 bills that we'd like to take up in committee this morning, and we have one patron who has been waiting patiently, and he is not a member of this committee, so I would like to invite Senator Stanley to present SB 5. And Senator Stanley, if you could also just remind the committee, this is a bill that we had in front of us last year, and if you could give a brief overview of the history and the reasons why we are hoping this time we will be successful with your bill.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Senate Bill 5 is a bill that started organically with a one-time scholarship program for robotics, especially for those schools that are underprivileged or underserved that cannot afford otherwise to create a robotics team. We gave out $10,000 scholarships that helped them build their robots, paid for travel, enabled them to compete. And we saw some great successes from it. What we have also seen is that budget amount has stayed in the budget every year. So this tries to make it a permanent scholarship fund. It's so important. But more importantly, Madam Chair and members of this committee, this is a bill that, quite frankly, I've gotten to know the students from the 1086 Blue Cheese Robotics team from Deep Run High School. And they came to me and asked me to put this bill together. And I said only under one circumstance, that they advocate for this bill, that they come here before this committee and talk about this bill and why it's important. And they have done such a great job, and they did a great job last year. And I must say that my feelings about why it died in House Appropriations was more to do probably with my personality than with the efficacy of this bill, and I apologize to them for that. I hope that with the changes that have come over there, that perhaps I might be looked upon a little more favorably than I was last year by a certain person that was there. But be that as it may, this is too good a thing for us to do for so many students that otherwise would not have the opportunity to engage in robotics. And if you'll permit these students to speak, I would be most honored. And also, Joe Sumner, the executive director of New College, would like to speak because we engage at New College in a scholarship program just like this. This is where we pick up for students that otherwise would be underprivileged and not able to afford it. But they also have done a handout. So if we could have the handout handed out, they've done that. And they put a lot of effort in. They meet about this bill. They're so energetic, and they energize me. And I think this is a testament to the legislative process, and these are the future leaders of our Commonwealth. And so I would yield. You know I love to talk, but I'm going to let them do the talking, if that's permissible.
Thank you, Senator Stanley, and I will just remind everyone of the established rules of the committee that we will hear 10 minutes of testimony in support of the legislation and also offer any individuals who might oppose the legislation the same courtesy. So welcome.
Good morning, Chairperson Hasmi.
Please make sure to state your name and share your school.
So my name is Nishal Alati, and I am a sophomore at Deep Burn High School and a member of the first robotics team, Blue Cheese Robotics. I've been involved in STEM since I was 7 for 8 years, and when I joined First LEGO League Robotics, I participated in FLL for 6 years, and each year we did a research project which related to a real-world project. One year was a problem in outer space, and me and my team decided to do something about mold in the ISS. And we created a spray solution that could eliminate and terminate the mold and stop it from growing again. And what sort of surprised me is that we did this using simple household ingredients like turmeric, dish soap, all these sort of things. And not only did I learn that I could, sort of eliminate mold, I learned that you can create anything using anything you want, and you just need to have that sort of passion to do so. And that is when I started to really be obsessed with STEM-related anything. I understood how amazing it was and how much of an impact it could have on my life. After my 6th year of FLL, I had moved to FRC, or the First Robotics Competition, joining Blue Cheese. I joined the build team in my first year, learning numerous skills through fundamentals of machining, learning how to read blueprints, and strengthening my basic craftsmanship. And then when I joined our advocacy sub-team, I had to develop my interpersonal skills, and I was learning about the legislative process and STEM education funding. Throughout the work in advocacy, I have not only learned that all students don't have the same opportunities that I do, but I learned that it was due to underfunding. Not every student has the opportunity to join in STEM competitions, and unfortunately in lower income and underreserved areas, these opportunities are less accessible to students, oftentimes due to financial constraints. Children need experiences to help them learn what they love and what they want to do, and expanding access to these opportunities can help the students develop their passion for STEM, choose STEM careers, and give them skills they need for the future to success. Please support the STEM Fund Competition Team Grant so that this is possible. Thank you.
Hello and good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Ellie Irwin. I'm senior at Thomas Jefferson High School in Richmond City of Senate District 14, and I've been a proud member of the robotics team since my sophomore year. In robotics, I am part of the design, outreach, and electrical team. Through these sub-teams, I learned how to get key measurements and upload them to CAD in order to design the robot, advocate for my team, as well as working with wires, which is beyond awesome. I also help with building the robot, and through that, I get to learn how to drill and screw in bolts. Robotics is not only important to me, but it's important to my team as well. Through robotics, we learn how to work as a team and learn valuable skills in the STEM field. So many of my teammates now want to work in the field when they are older, and that's all thanks to robotics and our wonderful mentors. Unfortunately, these things cost money. Money we and many other undeserved schools do not have. We constantly have to work hard to secure funding. In many cases, students and their families often face a variety of obstacles that prevent them from being able to fully support robotics. By supporting this bill, you can support schools, both urban and rural, being able to engage in the STEM fields. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Senators, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joe Sumner, and it is my honor and privilege to serve as the current Executive Director of New College Institute, a higher education center located in Martinsville, Virginia, tasked with bringing opportunity and education to areas where it previously did not exist. My first experience with competitive robotics began as a middle school student. I joined a local unfunded, unsanctioned team put together by a group of scout troop parents. It ignited such a passion in me that over the next 30 years, I have served as a coach, a mentor, and a volunteer for teams at the state, national, and world championship levels. I have seen firsthand the passion, the thrill, the excitement, but most importantly, the opportunity that comes with competitive robotics. To support this, at New College Institute, we provide a home to multiple competitive robotics teams. We're home to the National Society of Black Engineers. They have multiple robotic competitions they compete in throughout the year, and any night of the week you will find 30 to 40 students in our building practicing robotics. We're also home to First Robotics Team, STAGS. Congratulations to my team here behind me. Sometimes we are competitors, sometimes we are allies, but it's always great to see a fellow robotics team here putting up the fight, trying to provide more opportunity for our colleagues. I would like to ask all of you to consider all of these opportunities for competitive robotics. Again, I have seen it firsthand. To support this, what we have done at New College Institute, we have established a $25,000 scholarship for any student in the National Society of Black Engineers, any student in FIRST Robotics, any student in VEX Robotics, as well as Lego League Robotics in our region. We have seen this change lives. We have seen students that have never left city limits travel all across the country thanks to these resources and these opportunities. And now we see those same individuals in our community working jobs that have come about because of the exposure and the experiences they had from competitive robotics. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers?
Yes, there are.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'm Jay Deck. I'm with the Virginia Education Association, and we just think this is a great opportunity for our students in the Commonwealth to have a chance to invest. Your investment will help them, encourage them to grow and do things that they may not have thought was possible. So we supported this bill last year, and we hope that we'll have support again from you for this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any individuals who wish to speak in opposition to this bill? So, Senator Stanley, I will ask you to provide closing comments, and again, just remind our committee members that it had enthusiastic support. This bill has enthusiastic support in the committee as well as on the Senate floor, and we will need to work on our House colleagues this year.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I will do my best, but I thank you for the kind words. I think this is so important. You see it right back here. A lot of these students have that opportunity because of their zip code and where they live. They can afford, or their parents can afford this. What we're really trying to do with this scholarship program is open it up because, you know, when I was a young kid, I wanted to be a pro baseball player. There was no way that I was going to become a professional baseball player, even participating in high school athletics. But every single one of these children can go pro in their field. And it is an amazing thing to say when we can create something like this akin to a sports team where every single child can benefit in their later life. And if they benefit, then if they can break the cycle of poverty, they can break the cycle of poverty for their family. They can change their own lives, which changes lives. And the impact is incredible because it's then a benefit to the Commonwealth of Virginia because we're creating that tech talent pipeline and we're starting at the levels of our public education. So thank you, Madam Chair, for your kind words. Thank you for your kind consideration of this bill. And I will work on my attitude when crossover occurs to make sure this doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion on the floor? The motion is to report, but it needs to go to finance. So is there a motion to report?
I hear the chairman of finance is wonderful. Have you heard that?
Thank you. There is a motion and a second. The motion is to report and re-refer SB 5, re-refer it to finance. The clerk will open the roll.
You are, yeah.
Push a button, Van Bach.
Ayes 14, no 0.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 14, no 0.
With a vote of 14 ayes, the motion to report and refer to finance passes. And good luck in finance. I don't hear the same.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank
you, members of the committee,
the
for your
chair
time.
of the finance
And
committee.
thank our students. These are great students, and just they're so passionate about this. So I want to thank them as well. Thank you.
We thank our student presenters who came early this morning to present and share their insights. Thank you again for the hard work you're doing on this legislation. Okay, next in front of us then, we have 3 bills, SB 15, SB 16, SB 367. All of these bills are affecting sections of our criminal code, and I would ask that we have a motion to move these bills in a block and re-refer them to the courts of justice. Is there a motion? So the motion it's been moved and seconded that we move these bills in a block and re-refer them to the courts of justice. The clerk will open the roll. The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 14, no zero.
SB 15, SB 16, SB 367 have been moved in a block and have been re-referred to the courts of justice. The next bill is SB 59, patroned by Senator Favola. Now, the Rules Committee and our Chair of Rules is here, has asked that all bills that are seeking to establish a work group be re-referred to the Rules Committee. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that SB 59 be re-referred to the Rules Committee. Clerk will open the roll.
Peak. Nothing.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 14, no zero.
Thank you. SB 59 has been re-referred to the Committee on Rules. And the next bill is SB 104, patroned by Senator Lucas. I invite the senator to present her bill.
Do you mind if I present from here, Madam Chair?
That would be perfectly acceptable.
Thank you. First of all, Senate Bill 104 requires that public school teachers be compensated at a rate that is at or above the national average in order to attract and retain highly qualified teachers. Under current law, such a rate is the definition of competitive, yet is aspirational and has never been achieved. And so I think we all know where I'm headed with this. We've been headed in this direction for quite a while. And so, Madam Chair, I would like for you to ask if there are any questions or comments, and I'd like to get this bill moving forward.
Thank you, Senator Lucas. Are there any questions from our committee members regarding SB 104?
Just one question, Madam Chair.
Please, there's Senator Boysko is in queue.
Madam Chair, I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I have constituents in my community who are teachers working to sell donuts on the weekend just to make their mortgage. Other teachers who are working at the local car dealership on the weekends and the nights. This is a very welcomed bill, and I look forward to supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Boysko. Next in queue is Senator Durant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question for the patron.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I just was curious, how does this adjust for if we're at this, moving to this level throughout the state versus Northern Virginia, Arlington versus the Southwest? I know we're currently in the Commonwealth, we have the COCA adjustment. So just wondering how this takes into account the fluctuations in the cost of living we have throughout the state.
I think that's a question those are questions that will be answered on the floor of Senate Finance and Appropriations.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Tehank you. Next in queue is Senator Favola.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am very supportive of this bill, and we know teachers are the most important element to a quality education. They are the key to our students succeeding. Just want to clarify, this would only be the state dollars that would be necessary to get us to this target. So the point that localities would also have to put some money on the table would be a consideration, and we need to figure out how to equalize that so we can actually achieve the goal that is stated here. But we need to move forward. I enthusiastically support this.
Thank you. Seeing no more questions from committee members, is there anyone in the public who would like to speak to SB 104?
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Chad Stewart, and I'm with the Virginia Education Association. We wholeheartedly support this bill. It's been a long time coming. We've had promises for decades now to get to the national teacher pay average, and we never have. We came closest back in 1989, but we've waffled ever since, being up some years, down other years. And right now, when we look at inflation-adjusted teacher pay, compared to pre-pandemic, our teachers are down thousands of dollars in average teacher pay. And that's not because we haven't made meaningful investments over the past few years. It's just inflation has eaten away at average teacher salaries in the state of Virginia. And functionally today, teachers have their average salaries go less far than they did pre-pandemic. Now, we also know that vacancies are a major problem throughout the state. While most states have seen improvements to their teacher vacancies over the past 2 years, Virginia saw a major increase last year, and the vacancy rate has stayed stubbornly high this year, with recent data that just came out a few weeks ago showing that we are still at 3.9% for vacancy rates. We also have a large number of teachers that are now not fully licensed in the classroom anymore. So there's another underlying trend that is challenging getting quality teachers in front of all of our students. We know that the only way to get to the national teacher pay average is to pay at the national teacher pay average. That's the only pathway to get there. We're a high cost of living state, and we know that even if we got to the national teacher pay average, it's still just the first step, because we would like to see competitive pay for our teachers to really work down the shortages and vacancies in the state to make sure that we have a high quality set of instructors in front of every classroom. Thank you for your time. Thank you for considering support of this bill. And we are happy to be a resource to any of you if you have questions or would like additional information about the data or inflation adjustments or how to get to the national rate. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Laura Gorn. I'm with the Commonwealth Institute. Unfortunately, when you combine the current relatively low pay for teachers in Virginia with our relatively high cost of living and relatively good pay for other professionals, you find that Virginia still has the third worst teacher pay penalty in the country. Virginia teachers are paid just 68 cents on average for every dollar paid to their peers in other professions who have similar levels of education and experience. So this is a major problem, and we think this bill is a good step forward to help our teachers and our schools and our families. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm John Suswick with Virginia Professional Educators. We also support the bill for the reasons stated. Thank you.
Is there anyone that wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, Senator Lucas, do you have any final comments on them? Oh, someone's coming.
No, Madam Chair, I just want to thank all of the stakeholders who...
Senator Lucas, my apologies to you. Senator Locke is on the board to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank Senator Lucas for bringing this bill forward. I know it's going to finance, where I hear there's a decent chair. No, I just want to thank Senator Lucas for bringing this bill forward, and at the very least, addressing one of the JLARC recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you know, as one of the longest standing members of this committee, you know how long I've been working on getting to this point. And I just want to thank all of the stakeholders for continuing year after year to come and give testimony in support of this bill. And so with that, shall I make the motion?
Well, I hear that the Chair of Finance has requested this bill, so a motion would be appropriate.
Go ahead and make the motion.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the bill be recommended for approval and re-referred to Senate Finance and Appropriations.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. The motion is to recommend report and re-refer to Finance for SB 104. The clerk will open the roll. The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 14, no 0.
The SB 104 has been recommended and has been re-referred to Finance. Thank you. And the next bill is SB 105, again patroned by Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I think it only stands to reason that I would be introducing these education bills, having been the senior-most member of this committee for all these years. But Senate Bill 105 is, of course, the National Teacher Certification Incentive Rewards Program, and that is indicated in the program or on your agenda. It renames the National Teacher Certification Incentive Reward Program and Fund as the National Board Certification Incentive Reward Program and Fund, and it expands eligibility for incentive grants for or from such fund pursuant to such program from solely teachers who have obtained national certification from the National Board of Professions Teacher Standards, and to all of those listed under little I1 and little I2. And so with that, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Lucas. Are there any questions or comments from committee members? Seeing none in queue, is there anyone who wishes to provide support to this bill?
Chad Stewart with the Virginia Education Association. We also support this bill. We know that is a rigorous process to get your national board certification. Is an excellent form of professional development, and we see much higher retention for the teachers that go through this process and are more likely to stay in the profession. Virginia has lost our most experienced teachers at a faster clip than most other states in the country over the past 2 years. We know that teachers are one of the most important factors that impact a student's outcome, and we want to make sure that we are keeping our very best and most talented teachers in the classroom. This supplement would bring us somewhere between North Carolina and Maryland's supplement. Is a reasonable first step for improving our overall supplement. And we wholeheartedly support this bill, and we are happy to work with any members that have questions or like additional information on the program. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm John Suswick with Virginia Professional Educators. We also support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I see a desire to speak from Senator Van Valkenburg.
And Madam Chair, speaking to the bill. Madam Chair, members of the committee, I would just kind of double down on what Chad from the VEA mentioned about retention. When we talk about, we want to get more teachers into the field, but one of the things we really need to do is retain them. And National Board Certification is one of the best ways to do that because you're creating a professional standard, you're creating kind of lifelong learning, you're creating teachers who are introspective about the process and who have buy-in, right, to the act of teaching. And so when we sit here and talk a lot about different ways that we can retain teachers, and of course there's a ton of ways, pay them better, take some of the stuff off their plate, this is one of the top ways that we can do that. And so I hope that we can get this done this year, and I'm certain with the chair of finance pushing this that we'll have good odds. So I want to thank Senator Lucas for bringing this bill, and I think this will do a lot of good for our teaching profession. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a motion. Madam Chair, are you ready for a motion?
Well, I would reiterate that the chair of finance has requested this bill come to.
Well, then we have to accommodate the chair of finance.
We're all ready for a motion, yes.
Okay, Madam Chair, I move that we approve this bill and re-refer it to finance.
Second. Thank you.
There is a motion and a second, and the motion is to the Finance Committee. The clerk will open the roll. The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 15, no 0.
The motion passes. SB 105 I'm sorry, my mic was off. Did everybody hear that motion? The final bill today is SB 111, patroned by Senator Peake. Senator Peake, would you like to present your bill?
Yes, Madam Chair. Is here fine, or do you want me to go up front?
I will leave it up to your discretion.
I'll stay right here for now then, Madam Chair. Senate Bill number 111 is the Drug Control Act. We are, since 2013, we've been working to keep dangerous drugs off the streets. What happens is our creative criminal chemist will change the chemical makeup of various drugs to get them outside of the schedule. So this is a regular update that we do every year. We want to codify the newest dangerous chemicals that they've come up with. And Madam Chair, I could pronounce each and every single one of these new chemicals with grace and eloquence, but I don't think it would be appropriate for me to show off like that in front of this committee. So I am not going to read each and every one of these chemicals, but it's a pretty standard bill. You would do that to me. And so this is just a pretty standard bill to outlaw these drugs that they change by a component or two. And that's the bill.
Thank you, Senator Peake. I heard a desire that you read the full list of bills out loud to us. And you'd be as loquacious as Senator Stanley is in the process.
Not nearly that loquacious.
Is there anyone who wishes to speak in support of the legislation? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Is there a motion on the floor?
Report.
There is a motion to report, and it's been seconded. The clerk will, and this is for SB 111, the clerk will open the roll. The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 15, no 0.
SB 111 has been reported from the committee, and I think that is our final bill on the docket today. I want to thank all of our committee members and everyone who has joined us this morning. We have a full slate of bills that will be coming in front of the committee, and just a reminder that our subcommittee on public education will be holding its first meeting this afternoon, half an hour after we adjourn. Thank you. Thank you.
The Senate of Virginia.
The committee is now adjourned. Thank you.
The Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia.